What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses faces questions that push her to the edge on daytime television? Jennifer Lawrence went from charming guest to a force of nature over one question that crossed a line she never expected on live TV. This isn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. It's the day America watched a superstar lose her composure in front of millions, and the aftermath no one anticipated. Before we dive into this explosive moment, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment sharing what you think triggered Jennifer's meltdown. The morning started like any other episode of The View. The iconic round table buzzed with energy as the hosts prepared for what they thought would be a routine promotional interview. Jennifer Lawrence was scheduled to appear as part of her press tour for her latest film, and everyone expected light banter, behind-the-scenes stories, and maybe a few laughs about her famous clumsiness. The audience was packed with fans, many holding signs and wearing shirts celebrating her iconic movie roles. Joy Behar sat confidently at her usual spot, shuffling through her note cards with a familiar smirk. She had clearly done her homework, but there was something different about her demeanor today, suggesting she planned to dig deeper than usual. The other hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, Sunny Host, and Alyssa Farah Griffin, were preparing, unaware they were about to witness one of the show's most explosive moments. When Jennifer walked onto the stage, she radiated grace and warmth, greeting each host with hugs and smiles. She wore a stunning navy blue dress that highlighted her blonde hair, and her energy lit up the studio. The audience erupted in applause, some standing to honor the Oscar-winning actress. Whoopi announced, "Welcome back to The View. We are here with the absolutely gorgeous and talented Jennifer Lawrence. How are you doing today, sweetheart?" she asked. "I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me," Jennifer replied, settling into her chair with her characteristic laugh. "I always love being here with you ladies. You make me feel right at home." The first several minutes went exactly as expected. Sarah Haynes asked about her new movie, and Jennifer delivered answers with her usual mix of professionalism and humor. She shared a story about accidentally walking into a glass door during filming, sending the audience into laughter. "That's so you," Sunny laughed. "Do you think you'll ever outgrow the clumsiness? Or is it just part of your charm?" "Oh, it's definitely here to stay," Jennifer grinned. "My publicist even builds extra time into my schedule for inevitable accidents. Last week I tripped over nothing and somehow ended up tangled in a red carpet. I don't even know how that's physically possible." The conversation flowed naturally, covering her role preparation, thoughts on Hollywood, and even her pottery hobby, which resulted in some lopsided bowls she was surprisingly proud of. Jennifer seemed completely at ease, joking with the hosts and engaging effortlessly with the audience. But then something shifted. Joy Behar, quiet until now, leaned forward with an intensity that caught everyone off guard. She had been waiting for her moment. "Jennifer, I want to talk about something a little more serious, if that's okay." Joy began, her tone investigative. "There's been a lot of discussion about privilege in Hollywood, and I'm curious how your background may have contributed to your success." Jennifer's smile faltered slightly, but she maintained her composure. "Of course, I think it's important to acknowledge that I've been incredibly fortunate in my career and life in general." "Let's be more specific," Joy pressed, her voice sharper. "You grew up in Kentucky. You've talked about your family's financial struggles, but you also had opportunities many don't. You moved to New York at 14 to pursue acting. Most families can't afford that." "Well, yes, my parents made sacrifices," Jennifer replied, her voice slightly defensive. "But they believed in my dream and worked incredibly hard to make it possible. It wasn't easy for any of us." Joy wasn't satisfied with that answer. She shuffled through her cards and looked directly at Jennifer, her expression making the other hosts exchange worried glances. "I did some research on your family's background, and I found some interesting information about your father's construction company. It seems your family might have been more financially comfortable than you've let on in previous interviews." The studio fell silent. Even the audience seemed to sense the tension. Jennifer's demeanor changed instantly. Her shoulders tensed, her jaw tightened, and for the first time since she had walked onto the stage, she looked genuinely angry. "I'm sorry, what exactly are you implying?" she asked, her voice dropping to a dangerously low level that sent chills through everyone watching. "I'm not implying anything," Joy responded with an infuriating calm that made it clear she knew exactly what she was doing. "I'm simply pointing out that there seems to be some inconsistency in how you've portrayed your upbringing. Some might call it a narrative crafted for public consumption." The other hosts looked horrified. Whoopi shook her head almost imperceptibly, while Sarah and Sunny appeared to want to crawl under the table. Alyssa frantically scribbled notes, likely trying to figure out how to salvage what was rapidly becoming a disaster. Jennifer's eyes flashed with fury the studio had never seen. The transformation was so sudden, it was like watching a completely different person emerge from behind the carefully curated public persona audiences knew. "Crafted for public consumption," Jennifer repeated, her voice rising. "Are you seriously suggesting I've been lying about my childhood for sympathy points?" Joy doubled down, clearly enjoying the reaction. "I'm simply saying that the facts don't always align with the story. Your father's company was successful. Your family owned a horse farm. Yet you've consistently portrayed yourself as someone from humble beginnings." "Stop right there," Jennifer said, holding up her hand with such force that Joy flinched. "You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, and the fact that you think you can dissect my family's financial situation like an amateur investigative journalist is beyond insulting." The audience was dead silent, the kind of silence that comes when people realize they're witnessing something they shouldn't. Camera operators zoomed in. Producers frantically spoke into headsets. The other hosts looked like they were watching a car crash in slow motion. "Jennifer, I think what Joy is trying to say," Whoopi attempted, but Jennifer cut her off. "No, Whoopi, let her finish," she snapped, never taking her eyes off Joy. "Since she's done so much research on my family, I'd love to hear what other fascinating discoveries she's made about my personal life." Joy, either oblivious to the dangerous ground she was treading or too stubborn to back down, continued. "Well, since you asked, I also found it interesting that you've never really addressed the fact that your family had connections in the entertainment industry through your mother's side. That's quite different from the small-town girl discovered by chance narrative the media loves." That was the final straw. Jennifer shot up from her chair so fast it rolled backward, nearly toppling over. The studio gasped, and security guards stepped forward, unsure of what might happen. "You want to know about my mother's side of the family?" Jennifer's voice trembled with barely contained rage. "My mother's cousin worked as a grip on low-budget films 20 years ago. That's the big entertainment connection you're talking about. A man I met twice in my life, who had nothing to do with my career, never made a phone call on my behalf, and I haven't spoken to in over a decade." She paced, gesturing wildly as years of frustration poured out. "And you want to talk about my father's construction company? You want to know how successful it was? It went bankrupt when I was 16. We lost our house. My parents had to move in with my grandmother, and I had to figure out how to support myself in New York while pursuing acting." Joy looked like she realized she had gone too far, but Jennifer wasn't done. "You sit there with your research and notes, thinking you've uncovered some great conspiracy about my background, but you don't know about the nights my mother cried herself to sleep, terrified we'd lose everything. You don't know about my father working 18-hour days trying to save his business, or me eating ramen noodles for weeks because I couldn't afford anything else." The cameras captured every moment, and viewers across America watched slack-jawed as one of Hollywood's most composed stars completely lost her composure on live television. Social media exploded with clips and reactions. Inside the studio, everyone was frozen. "Jennifer, please, let's take a breath," someone finally urged. Sarah Haynes tried to interject, her voice shaking slightly. But Jennifer shot back, "No, I'm not taking a breath," whirling to face the entire panel. "I'm tired of people like her," she pointed at Joy, "thinking they can rewrite my story to fit whatever narrative they want to push. I'm tired of having my family struggles minimized and dismissed because it's convenient for someone's agenda." Joy finally found her voice again, though less confident than before. "I never said your struggles weren't real. I was simply pointing out that perhaps the full picture is more complicated than what's been presented." "The full picture?" Jennifer laughed, but there was no humor. "The full picture is that my parents sacrificed everything for my dreams. The full picture is that my mother took out loans because she couldn't afford to keep me in New York. The full picture is that my father's health suffered watching his life's work crumble. But I guess that doesn't make as interesting a story as suggesting I'm some privileged fraud." Sunny host, clearly uncomfortable, tried to steer the conversation back. "Jennifer, we all understand that success in Hollywood is complicated and everyone's journey is different." "Do we?" Jennifer turned to Sunny with an intensity that made her visibly uneasy. "It seems some people at this table think they understand my journey better than I do. They think they can Google a few facts and suddenly become experts on my life story." She turned back to Joy, who was now fidgeting with her cards and avoiding eye contact. "You want to know what really bothers me? It's not just that you're wrong about the facts, though you are spectacularly wrong. It's that you're trying to diminish the very real struggles my family went through, struggles that shaped who I am and why I work so hard." The studio was so quiet the cameras captured every detail of this unprecedented breakdown. Producers scrambled, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let it play out, knowing either choice carried consequences. "I never intended to diminish anything," Joy said weakly, finally looking up. "I was just trying to have a conversation about privilege and opportunity in Hollywood." "By attacking my family," Jennifer's voice cracked. "By suggesting I've been lying about my background for my entire career. By implying everything I've achieved is illegitimate because you think my parents had more money than they did." Alyssa Farah Griffin, the newest panel member, looked terrified, frozen, and unsure how to respond. Jennifer continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "Let me tell you something else your research didn't uncover. When my father's business failed, when we lost everything, the entertainment industry you think handed me opportunities turned their backs on us. Casting directors stopped returning calls. Agents disappeared. I had to start over from absolutely nothing." Her words cut through the studio like a knife. "You want to talk about privilege? Privilege is sitting behind that desk tearing apart someone's personal history without living a single day of it yourself. Privilege is thinking you have the right to question someone's truth because it doesn't fit the narrative you want to tell." Joy shifted uncomfortably, glancing at producers as if hoping for rescue. Jennifer wasn't done. "I rebuilt my career from the ground up. I auditioned for every small role, every indie film, every commercial that would have me. I slept on couches, worked restaurant jobs between auditions, and I never, not once, used any supposed family connections, because they didn't exist." Whoopi finally spoke, trying to regain control. "Jennifer, we can appreciate how passionate you are about this topic, and perhaps we should move on to your new film." "No," Jennifer said firmly, raising her hand again. "We're not moving on until this is addressed properly. Joy asked me a question. She made accusations about my family and my integrity, and I'm going to make sure she understands exactly how wrong she is." The audience was completely transfixed. This wasn't just a celebrity meltdown. It was a masterclass in standing up when someone crosses a line. Social media exploded, with clips shared millions of times and hashtags trending worldwide. Joy cleared her throat, realizing she needed to either apologize or double down, and unfortunately chose the latter. "Jennifer, I understand you're upset, but I think you're overreacting to what was meant to be a thoughtful discussion about how different backgrounds contribute to success in Hollywood. The collective gasp from the audience was audible. Even the camera operators leaned in closer, sensing Joy had just made a critical mistake. Jennifer's eyes went wide. "Overreacting?" she repeated slowly, her voice dangerously quiet. "You think I'm overreacting to you calling me a liar on national television?" "I never called you a liar," Joy protested weakly. "You said I crafted a narrative for public consumption." Jennifer shot back immediately. "You said there were inconsistencies in how I portrayed my upbringing. You questioned whether my family struggles were real. What exactly would you call that?" Sarah Haynes looked like she might cry, Sonny scribbled furiously, and Alyssa sat frozen, wishing she was anywhere else. "Look," Joy said, trying to regain composure. "All I was trying to do was start a conversation about the complex nature of success in Hollywood. I think you're taking this too personally." Jennifer laughed, but there was no warmth. "Too personally? You attacked my family's financial history, questioned my integrity, and suggested my entire career is built on lies. And you think I'm taking it too personally?" She addressed the audience directly. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what's wrong with media today. 5 minutes of Google research and suddenly, they think they know more about your life than you do. A few public records and suddenly they're qualified to rewrite your personal history." The audience erupted in applause, giving her confidence as she faced the panel again. "Joy, I want you to look me in the eye and tell me if you've ever had to choose between paying rent and buying groceries. Tell me if you've ever called your parents asking for money when you knew they didn't have any. Tell me if you've watched your father cry because everything he worked for was disappearing." Joy remained silent. "I didn't think so," Jennifer continued. "Maybe, just maybe, you should think twice before questioning someone else's story when you've never lived anything remotely similar." Whoopi tried to intervene one last time. "Jennifer, we all understand your point, and maybe we should move on to your new film." "No," Jennifer said firmly. "We're not moving on until this is addressed properly. Joy asked me a question. She made accusations about my family and my integrity, and I'm going to make sure she understands exactly how wrong she is." The audience was riveted. Social media exploded with clips and trending hashtags worldwide. Joy cleared her throat again, trying to defend herself. "Jennifer, I understand you're upset, but I think you're overreacting." Jennifer cut her off. "Overreacting? You accused me directly. You questioned my family's struggles and implied my entire career is built on lies. That's not overreacting." Turning back to the panel, she added, "I want you to understand what real struggle looks like. When my father's business failed, when we lost everything, the entertainment industry turned its back on us. I started over from nothing, sleeping on couches, working restaurant jobs, auditioning for every small role, every indie film, every commercial. And I never used family connections because they didn't exist." Whoopi tried again. "Jennifer, we can appreciate your passion. Let's talk about your new film." "No," Jennifer said, raising her hand again. "This ends only when Joy acknowledges how wrong she was. She made accusations, and I'm going to make sure they're corrected." The tension was unbearable, but finally, Joy spoke carefully. "Jennifer, if I gave you the impression that I was questioning your integrity or family struggles, that wasn't my intention." "That's not good enough," Jennifer said immediately. "You didn't give me an impression. You made statements, accusations. But fine, I'll take that. At least you're admitting you were wrong." She sat back, calming slightly, but still burning with intensity. "Let me be very clear. My family story is not up for debate. My struggles are not up for interpretation. My integrity is not up for questioning by someone who thinks Google makes them an expert on my life. Now, if anyone wants to talk about my actual movie, I'll do that. But if anyone else wants to play amateur investigator with my personal life, This interview is over." Whoopi jumped in, eager to move on. "Let's talk about the movie. Jennifer, tell us about your character and what drew you to this role." Just like that, Jennifer switched back into professional mode, answering questions as if the last 20 minutes hadn't happened. But everyone in the studio knew they had witnessed something extraordinary, a confrontation that would be talked about for years. The interview concluded without further incidents, but the impact remained. Joy Behar had learned that some celebrities won't sit quietly while their integrity is questioned, and Jennifer Lawrence had shown the world that beneath her charming exterior was someone willing to defend her family and her truth at all costs. As the audience filed out, there was a buzz of disbelief and excitement. They had just witnessed one of the most explosive confrontations in daytime television history. What really pushed Jennifer over the edge? Was it Joy's relentless questioning, or something deeper? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more moments you won't see anywhere else.